Hi, this is Erin from The Witch of Saturn. Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to do a quick walkthrough of the difference between the Enchanted Forhaxa Tarot by MJ Cullinane, the mass market edition, and the Forhaxa Tarot indie edition, which is currently out of print, but I was able to find a used copy to purchase. And before I pass on the mass market, I just wanted to see what are the differences between these two, and if you're a big fan of this deck, does it make sense to invest in the indie version? First, let's take a look at the boxes. The mass market edition does have the cutouts for the thumbs so that you can easily pull it apart. I like in this one that there is some artwork included in the box and a quote. I don't love the busyness on the side, and then here is the back. The indie version has a much nicer kind of rose petal texture on it, but there are no thumb cutouts, so this is one of those annoying boxes where you really have to work to get it open. And this has artwork around the sides, which is really pretty, but nothing on the inside, which I don't love, where you can kind of see the creases here. So between that and the difficulty in opening this box, this is a deck that I will most likely bag. And I already purchased a bag for it from Jenna from Moonlit Fae, who makes these amazing bags. And so I'm excited to receive that. The guidebooks are essentially the same as far as I can tell without reading it, comparing cover to cover, with the exception that in the mass market, there is an introduction and a section at the back about the author. Everything else looks exactly the same to me. There is a difference in the paper choice of the guidebook. The indie has that rose petal finish, and the cards on the inside are more glossy. So honestly, this one smells a little bit more than the mass market. I'm gonna need to kind of air this out because I'm sensitive to those kind of printed smells. So on the inside, there's a section on preparing to use your deck. Yes, no, maybe. Some spreads or advice, questions for the major arcana, which I think is very cool, and then the card descriptions. So we're just going to go through, I'm going to do a flip through the deck. One of the main differences obviously is the card stock. So we can see the difference in thickness. This is a very chunky, thick deck, and the indie version is much thinner. The card stock is much thinner and has more bend to it, so better for riffle shuffling. I did confirm with the seller of this deck before I purchased the indie version that it was on this thinner card stock, because I have heard, and here's the backs, the difference of the backs while I'm flipping. I have heard that the cardstock that MJ used to use for her indie decks was this thin, kind of has a little slippery texture to it, that type of cardstock. And now she's using a much thicker cardstock. So I pre-ordered her Coastal Crows deck, so we'll see. I'll be able to tell the difference then, but I knew that if I was going to spend the money on the indie Forhaxa, I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just going to be the same kind of thick cardstock that the mass market is on, and it's not, so I'm happy about that. The other difference that I can see right off the bat is the labels of the titles of the card. So we see on the indie version, it's a dark background with this filigree around it, whereas the mass market has this gold and is numbered. And for me personally, because I really enjoy reading or using decks that don't have words on them, I really like this so much better because this kind of can blend right into the artwork for me, whereas this is more jarring. Now, I do want to mention that I just recently saw a video that Honey Lou did comparing two decks like this, a more vintage version and then a new mass market version. It was the Sacred Dakini and the Tantric Dakini. And I saw a comment on there that someone was like, why would you even bother making this video? They're the same deck. And I was just like, no, they're not at all. And for someone like me who, you know, wants to know the differences in the cardstock and the quality and just these subtle nuanced changes between two decks, I think that it is very beneficial content. And I was just very glad that she made it because it helped me to make a decision about the deck that I would someday purchase if I decide to go back down a weird road I've been on with the Sacred Dakini, but that's a different story. So back to Forhaxa. So the other difference that I really see is just the quality of the color, with the indie deck being just much more vibrant and the mass market being a little more muted. But other than that, they are the same. The artwork is the same. So we're really talking about a difference in cardstock quality, thickness, texture. Like you can see, this is just so much slipperier than this deck. And the difference with the card titles and the labels. I do like the vibrancy of the indie deck colors. And as I'm flipping through, I just really do notice the difference with this brown background of the text versus the gold, and know that, like, I could pretty much say as soon as I opened the box and took these cards out that I did not regret my decision to invest in the indie version. I really love this deck. I'm just gonna pause to say, do you see how this is just more clear? There's more of a depth of color and more definition to the artwork, that this kind of looks a little more washed out. It's a subtle difference. So I would say if you haven't used this deck before, if you're not sure if you are going to like it, if you are going to use it, then I wouldn't just go ahead and try to buy the out-of-print indie version. What I did was I bought the mass market, and I bought it on sale for, I think it was $13.50. And I used the deck for a while and then decided, you know what, I really do like this. This is definitely something that I want to keep in my collection, and I like it enough that I'd like to, I'm keeping my eyes open for a good deal, and I found one. I've seen this deck go for like $125, which I just think is too much. I think that the color definition really jumps out at me the most in the quartz. Maybe it's because of the filigree framework, borders, edging. So with the mass market, I have pretty big hands, like piano fingers, so I can usually wrap my hands around any deck, but this doesn't have a lot of bend, which makes it more challenging to riffle shuffle. It's definitely not going to bridge. So for this deck, I definitely have been overhand shuffling it when I've used it. This will be my first time shuffling the indie version. So we can see it has a lot more bend to it. Still with the size of the cards and the slippery texture, it's really not bridging very easily. So that is the quick comparison and walkthrough of the two different versions of the Forhaxa Tarot by MJ Cullinane. Hopefully this was helpful to you if you are deciding between the two versions or looking to bring this into your collection. Again, my advice would be to just go with the mass market and see if you like it before, trying to find this indie version. All right, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Please like, subscribe, and comment on this video if you enjoyed it. Bye.